there, Year 3, and welcome to Set B of the water cycle. So we're going to go through the questions in this one. If you need me to read the text back to you, remember to just watch the previous video. Otherwise, we're going to get straight into the answers. So here we go. Right, so question 1, vocabulary. Look at the section evaporation. Find and copy one word that means gather. Find and copy one word that means gather. So I'm looking back at the evaporation section. Find that bit there. What means the same as gather? If you look right at the bottom of that one, it says there collects. That is the one, isn't it? Okay, so the water vapor collects in the sky to create clouds. That means the same thing as gather, as it collects. Okay, right. Question number 2. Through the Earth's surface, what does the word surface mean? Through the Earth's surface, what does the word surface mean? Okay, so what does the word surface mean? If something's on the surface, okay, it's kind of like it's on the Earth. In relation to the Earth, it's on the Earth, isn't it? Okay, it's through the Earth's surface. So it's not underneath or above it, it's on the Earth. Okay, so on the Earth is the answer to that one. Right. Question 3. Water is essential for all life on Earth. Which word below means the same as essential? Is it necessary, recycled, insignificant, or collected? So it's essential. What does it mean, essential? The only one it does mean is necessary. Necessary is the answer. Okay, it means the same thing as essential. If it's necessary, the others just don't make sense. Recycled, not the same. Collected, no. Insignificant, it's none of those. Right, retrieval. Question 4. Where does water collect in the collection stage? Where does water collect in the collection stage? So if I look back at that collection stage in the text, what does it say? Collection. The 4th stage of the water cycle is collection. During this process, fallen water collects in oceans and lakes before it evaporates. Oceans and lakes before it evaporates. That is the answer, isn't it? It collects in oceans and lakes. That's what I've written. Question 5. Why might you be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank? Why might you be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank? So if you remember when it said about the dinosaur bit, that was right at the bottom of the text. So it says there, water is essential for all life on Earth because water is recycled and does not leave Earth. It has been around for millions of years, meaning that you might be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank. So why might you be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank is because the water's been around for millions of years, isn't it? Okay, it's been around for millions of years. That is the answer. So here's what I wrote. I said, because water is recycled and does not leave the Earth, it has been around for millions of years. So there's your full answer, okay? Because water is recycled, it doesn't leave the Earth, and it's been around for millions of years. Right, question 6. Complete the missing sections in this diagram. So we've got the diagram. This should be really, really easy, because all you've got to do is look back at the text. It's a diagram that's right there. Fill in the missing section. So the 2 missing bits we need are goes condensation, precipitation, collection at the bottom, and then evaporation. Okay, that's the order of the cycle. So if you just look at your text, you can see the diagram, you fill in the missing bits. So the bits you should have written there were precipitation on the right and then evaporation on the left. So there you go. I actually wrote them in order as I went around the cycle. I didn't even go left to right, I did it in order. Right, inference. Question 7. Sometimes being a solid in between. Give 2 examples from the text when water is a solid. Give 2 examples from the text when water is a solid. So when is water a solid? So I'm looking back through the text. If you look at that section called solid, liquid and gas, that's going to give you a good hint there. So it does say right there at the bottom of that text, you can see sometimes becoming a solid in between. That line is right there in the text, isn't it? Right at the bottom of that paragraph. So give 2 examples of when this water is a solid. So we've got, if you look there, it can also exist as a solid, ice. Okay, so there's ice right there, so it could be ice. And then later it mentions it could be in the precipitation section. It says sleet or hail as well, doesn't it? Okay, it could take the form of rain, snow, but also sleet or hail. So sleet and hail, those are solid as well. So I wrote sleet. But if you wrote hail instead of sleet, that would be fine. But it's definitely ice and one of those 2. So ice with sleet or with hail. Okay? So just the 2 we needed for that one. Question 8. If we can't see water evaporating from oceans and lakes, how do we know about it? If we can't see water evaporating from oceans and lakes, How do we know about it? So, basically, the evidence is in the text. That was a harder question, I think, because you really had to read that quite carefully to figure out the answer to that one. So, the evidence from the text, it says in the evaporation section, the water vapour collects in the sky to create clouds. So how do we know that the water, how do we know about the water evaporating? It's because if we look up in the sky, we can see clouds up there. So how do those clouds get there? It's because the water has evaporated up there, and that's where they are. That's where all the water droplets, it forms the clouds when you get up there. So the answer is because the water vapour collects in the sky to create clouds. That's what I wrote. So clouds are our evidence that water does evaporate. You can see clouds in the sky. Right, question 9. Look at the statements below. Which is true? Tick 1, then explain your answer underneath. So we did one of these in the yesterday one, didn't we, as well? So precipitation means when rain falls from the sky, or precipitation means when liquid water falls from the sky. So tick 1, then explain your answer underneath. So which one of those is true? So the one that we need to tick is the second one. Precipitation means when liquid water falls from the sky. That is the one we need to tick. So precipitation is when water falls from the sky. And the reasoning being is what I wrote. Because it is not just rain that falls from the sky, it is also snow, hail and sleet. The water may start out as rain, but freezes or cools on its way down to earth. Okay, that's how we know that precipitation means when liquid water falls from the sky. It is actually the evidence right there in the precipitation section. If you look, it could take the form of rain or snow, but also a sleet or hail. That's the evidence from the text there to back up my point, isn't it? Okay, and that's how I've used it. Okay. So, summarising, question 10. Here are some summaries of different paragraphs in the text. Number them from 1 to 4 to show the order in which they appear in the text. So, we've got water is very important and very old. We've got water can take different forms. We've got how clouds are formed. And we've got liquid water falls to earth. So, again, this one I think is easier than actually doing one of those fiction texts where you actually have to read the whole thing, because this is a non-fiction. It's all in convenient sections for us. All we have to do is have a look first. So we've got right at the beginning that water can take different forms in the solid, liquid and gas section. That's the water taking different forms. That is point 1. Point 2 is then the evaporation bit, which tells us that water vapour collects in the sky to create clouds. So that is going to be your second point, how clouds are formed. So that's your second point. Number 3 is going to be the liquid water falling to earth. Okay, that's in the precipitation section. That comes after that. So precipitation, the liquid water then falls to earth. That is point 3. And the last bit, water is very important and very old. That's in our wonderful water section, isn't it? Right at the end there, where it says it's essential for all life on earth. So there you go. It should be the order of 4, 1, 2, 3. Right. Question 11, authorial intent. Read these passages. When you hear about the water cycle, do you imagine some kind of bike that travels on water? Let's find out more. You might be used to water being a runny liquid than you use for drinking, washing and playing in. So A, why does the author write parts of the text in this style? And then B, find one other example of the author writing in this style and write it below. So A, why does the author write parts of the text in this style? Why has the author chosen to write the text in that sort of style? Okay, so not the whole text in that style, it's just parts of it, isn't it? Okay, so parts of the text are like that. So basically, it's to do with the author being a bit more informal, okay, to try and keep you interested and engaged with what the text is, but also it's talking directly to you, isn't it? So here's my answer. I said for A, the author is being informal and making it seem like they are talking directly to you, the reader. Okay, so talking to you specifically. It's asking you the questions. Do you imagine some kind of bike that travels on water? Let's find out more. It's talking to you, isn't it? It's trying to get you involved, get you interested in what they're saying. So find one other example of the author writing in this style and write it below. One other example. So does that mean I can use the same example that's in that question? No. If you have used the same example that's in that question, I'm afraid that's not correct. You must find one other example of when the author has written in this informal way and write it below. So the two I've written down, I've written two just so that you can see there is more than one, okay? But the one I chose was, you might be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank. That's something different. That's talking directly to you. Again, you might be drinking water that a dinosaur once drank. Or you could have had, you may not know that about 3/4 of your body is actually made up of water. That's again, it's talking to you again, isn't it? You may not know that your body is actually made up of 3/4 water. You may not know. It's talking to you. Anything that's talking to you is another example, but you cannot use the same examples. If you've written, when you hear about the water cycle, do you imagine some kind of bike that travels on water? Let's find out more. You might be used to water being a runny liquid that you use for drinking, washing, and playing in. Any of those, I'm afraid, do not get you the mark. The question quite specifically says, find one other example. So if you didn't find another example, you do not get the mark. So, without further ado, we have now finished our comprehension text for this week. So tune into next week's videos where we'll be doing a brand new text. Tomorrow's task is going to be the short comprehension text as usual, so get ready for that one. And I'll be uploading my answers to Class Dojo for you to see, to compare with as usual. So, take care, and I will see you next week.